Chapter 2, Lionheart. Alfred was as far from an ordinary 12-year-old boy as you could imagine. Inside, he felt ordinary, but he'd been told time and time again by grown-ups that he was anything but. Prince Alfred was not just plain old Alfred. He was Prince Alfred. His father was the king. One day he himself would be crowned king. King Alfred II, ruler of Britain and all its people. The strange thing was that he would become king of a kingdom he'd never set foot in. Not once had he been outside Buckingham Palace. The boy's sad face could often be glimpsed at as bedroom window at the very top of the building. Just above this window, a flag flew on the roof of the palace. For hundreds of years it had been the Union Jack, the red, white and blue flag of the United Kingdom. Now a very different flag flew, one that the Lord Protector himself had instigated. It was a black flag with a golden griffin at its centre. This was the symbol of the new order of things. Britain now had no government, so no prime minister or politicians representing the people. It also had no police force. Instead, the king's personal army, the Royal Guards, enforced the rule of law. Buckingham Palace had been home to the British royal family for centuries, since the time of George III. From his history books, Alfred had learnt that it had become a royal residence way back in 1761. The palace used to be a sanctuary. Now it was a fortress. Members of the Royal Guard were stationed all along the perimeter wall. The soldiers were instantly recognisable by their long flowing red robes, hoods and horrifying gold skull masks. On their arms they wore black bands with the golden griffin at the centre, just like on the flag. Despite looking almost medieval, the Royal Guards were armed with laser guns. Just one zap was enough to blast someone into oblivion. These soldiers guarded those who lived inside Buckingham Palace. The palace itself had seen better days. The carpets were worn and the wallpaper was peeling off the walls, but it was still a special place. The prince's bedroom was furnished only with antiques. He slept on a four-poster bed in silk pyjamas, though the bed creaked and the pyjamas had holes in them. The palace kitchen was stocked with every dish imaginable, as long as it came out of a tin. There were food stocks to last 100 years or more. Alfred was safe inside the palace, or so he thought. The boy pressed his face closer to the window as the domed roof of St. Paul's Cathedral caved in. Despite the horror, Alfred couldn't look away. Then, in an instant, he became distracted. There was a commotion in the corridor. He could hear a struggle and shouts just beyond his bedroom door. "Take your filthy hands off me! How dare you! I am your queen!" It was his mother's voice. As fast as he could, which wasn't very fast, Alfred limped across his bedroom and opened the door. The Queen was being held roughly by two members of the Royal Guard. They were meant to protect the royal family, so why were they dragging her along as if she were a criminal? These were strange times, but this was the strangest time of all. "Mama!" cried Alfred after her. The Queen was wearing her long lace nightdress and one slipper. Even though she was being manhandled, she was trying to maintain some sense of dignity. This was a lady who prided herself on never having a hair out of place. Alfred had not seen his mother without her hair perfectly lacquered in a do and her face painted with makeup. Right now, her do was unravelling fast. Instead of makeup, her face was covered with thick night cream. She looked a sight. Alfred idolised his mother, and it was weird seeing her like this. "Alfred!" she shouted over her shoulder, struggling with the soldiers to make them stop. Because their faces were hidden behind gold skull masks, it was impossible to guess what they were thinking. The Royal Guards remained silent throughout, which only added to the sense that this was a nightmare. "Mama, where are they taking you?" demanded Alfred. "Get back inside your room, Alfred, and lock the door," she shouted back. "But now, and promise me you'll stay there." The boy didn't reply. "Promise," she pleaded. "I promise," he mumbled. Shocked at what he just witnessed, Alfred retreated and slammed his bedroom door shut. He stood dead still, unable to move. It was as if he were underwater. That too made it feel like being in a nightmare. But this was no nightmare. This was really happening. As if to prove that Tears welled in the boy's eyes, then streamed down his face. His mother, who he loved more than anyone, was being dragged away in the night, and he was helpless to stop it. Alfred looked around his bedroom. There were silver-framed photographs of her everywhere. You'll see there's a collection of pictures of his mum doing all different things. So there's pictures of her reading him a bedtime story, pushing him on a rocking horse, helping him to draw a picture, playing with a train set, painting his face like a lion, helping him blow out all the candles on his birthday cake, giving him a teddy bear. In each picture, the young boy was basking in the glow of her love. In one of the photographs, Alfred was dressed up in a suit of armour as Richard the Lionheart. Richard I was a heroic king from the 12th century who led crusades in far-off lands. Alfred picked up the picture and studied it. Lionheart. That was his mother's pet name for him. Tears welled in the boy's eyes. He always felt unworthy of that name. He felt nothing like a hero. Having been ill all his life, Alfred was used to being an object of pity. Sometimes he even pitied himself. Tears ran down his cheeks. He felt helpless to stop his mother being dragged away by the royal guards. Other important people had mysteriously disappeared in the night over the years. The Prime Minister, the Chief of the Police, the head of the army. Even Alfred's grandmother had suffered the same fate. Lionheart. His mother's voice calling him that name circled round and round in his mind. Lionheart. Lionheart had been a mighty warrior. Alfred needed to summon some of his great ancestors' spirit and do something, anything. Lionheart, he said out loud, and despite what he had promised his mother, he opened his bedroom door. Creak.